Today I wanted to take you all on my front yard permaculture garden tour. And I see a lot of videos, I love checking out other permaculture videos, and they seem to have these beautiful large plots of land, most of them. And my neighborhood is just an average, normal, suburban neighborhood. And so I thought it would be nice to see something where I incorporate elements of permaculture into my front yard and without sacrificing, I guess I would say, like, the average look, right? Because a lot of us, maybe some of you are in your forever homes, but some of us might want to sell our homes someday or just have the option. So for the average person right now, the market isn't necessarily for having this like wild forest or tropical jungle in our front yard, even though I personally think that looks cool, but it's not for everyone. And I would say in my area, it's not for most people. So you're going to see an example today of something where it's somewhere in between. I do have small patches of lawn because I have a dog and ultimately my kid's going to be running around a little bit. But then I also have lined my walkway with these permaculture areas. So let's get right to it and I will give you a tour. Welcome to True Freedom Permaculture, where I show you all the tips and tricks you need to have a green thumb, even if you weren't born with one. This area is located on the north side of my home, and due to the mature trees on each side here, they receive a fair amount of shade. So I really just had to work with what I had, what was local to my area, and what I knew would tolerate either partial or full shade. But as you can see, you can really make it work. You can choose things that like this kind of climate, and yeah, they'll just fill out nicely, I think. I apologize in advance about the sounds of the lawnmowers and weed whackers, but 'tis the season, so we're just gonna have to work with what we've got. So you'll see here, I guess I'll start in the front here. So this is in the front. You can see the street is here. And right along here, you'll see I have some wood chips, and I haven't finished yet. But you can tell the difference, obviously, where I've mulched with layers of newspaper underneath these at least an inch thick layer of wood chips. And so as you can see, it's really effective in keeping the area weed free, and it also helps to hold in moisture and everything else. And this is a currant. Actually, this is a black currant that I've planted. And we've been lining the walkways with bluestone because bluestone is native to the area, and I just think it's really attractive and it makes for a really nice border edging. And so we're still close to the street. Here you'll see a patch of mint. Now, things that I plant close to the street, I tend not to eat for two reasons. Sorry, we've got a plane now. If the sound's not good, I'll record over it so you can hear me well. But for two reasons, I do not eat the stuff that grows near the street. One is because of the gases coming off of the cars coming through, like lead and all the things. I don't really recommend foraging or growing food too close to the street. But the second reason is that although I leave a strip of grass, as you can see, in between the street and my garden, there are people that still let their dogs just kind of do whatever, wherever. And so you know who you are if you're watching this. But that's another reason why I tend not to eat these things. So the mint that's in front here is mostly just ornamental, and also it serves the purpose, I think, of warding off some predators that would normally go after things like these beautiful pink flowers here. That's the garden phlox. There's a creeping version, but this is the taller garden phlox version. And I noticed that when it's surrounded by mint like this, the deer, for example, are more likely to leave it alone because the deer run rampant in my area and they will literally eat everything. Here is another currant. So that currant that I showed you that was over here in the front, that actually came from a cutting from this guy here. So we have enjoyed some of the black currants. So between me, my husband, and some of the local little critters, we've polished them off so they're no longer growing, but they're a really nice treat to have. They're so good for you. These are ostrich ferns, and these were a gift to me from someone, and they have spread out prolifically. And you can see this whole strip here on the right side of the walkway is covered with ferns. And I love ferns, I think that they're actually crowding out some of the other things I'd like to grow. So I'm also documenting this so I know next year that I can go ahead and eat more of the fiddlehead ferns, which is what these ferns are before they unfurl, and they are edible. And they're quite a delicacy, actually. You see them in local restaurants, and they, put them with a fancy price tag on them. But I know that I have some ferns to spare in this area. And these are the black-eyed Susans. I just love this time of year because it's when things are blooming, so it's sort of my favorite time to show this area. But these are another flower that's native to the area, so it's easy to grow. And that's another thing. All these things that I'm showing you, they grow very easily in my area, which is upstate New York, Zone 5. So I am just choosing the path of least resistance. I'm not trying to grow ginger or bananas in my front yard because it would be really hard, if not impossible. So working with what I have. Now luckily, let's go back to, you can see this is more mint here. The mint is prolific and it will spread everywhere, as anyone who has grown mint will ever tell you. And again, I like having it amongst these because the deer also tend to like the black-eyed Susans. So again, I think that this helps sort of ward off some of them. But I do like to use mint quite a bit. I dry it and use it for teas. And it's really nice to make a mint tea, an iced mint tea during the summertime. So if I'm going to pull mint, I avoid pulling it from closer to the street, and I will pull it from here. Obviously, I give it a good rinse before doing so. And with my own dog, I make sure that she doesn't go in this area. So these are hostas. There's all different kinds of hostas. I have another kind growing closer to my house that's all green, and it's beautiful in its own way, but I really like the white of this too. It kind of offsets it, and you can see here these have just died back, but they had these really pretty lavender pink flowers that were kind of droopy and beautiful, but those have just passed. But the foliage itself is really stunning too. And the other nice thing I should say about this whole garden too is that they are all plants that will tolerate either partial sun or shade. So hostas, for example, are a great plant that you can put on a side of your home that doesn't receive a lot of sun because they actually like the shade. Same with ferns. If you think about them growing in the forest, they grow low underneath trees and whatnot, so that's another reason. But the areas where it gets a little bit more sun, I don't have full sun really in any of these areas, but I do put the ones that might not do well in full shade, but they can tolerate partial sunlight. So that's why I've set it up the way that it is set. Now we'll go over to the other side. So you can see the walkway is made of bluestone as well. That was here to begin with though. And we bought a bunch of these like bluestone, I don't know if you call them pavers because they're not like cut out all symmetrically. That you can see they're very irregular shaped, and that was a physically difficult yet fun job, kind of like creating this little border here. It was like my weightlifting for a few weeks, but I was happy with how the edging came out. And this is the other side. So it's really just the same thing, same plants as you can see, hostas again, mints, ferns. It's a little bit different because the sunlight creates different microclimates. So even though I've got the same plants, you know, the ferns are more prolific on this other side because it gets more shade. This is more full sun here. And you can even just tell, like, sometimes some things just grow a little bit bigger on this side because it gets more sunlight. And here is a gooseberry, and gooseberries are really fun. Again, we have polished them all off, but they are, I don't know, they kind of look like grapes really, but they're nice tart, but they're also sweet too, and they're a real treat. So this is the red hinnomaki. If I'm butchering that, I apologize, but that is the type of gooseberry that we have here, and they have thorns on them, which you would think would deter the animals more, but somehow they still get in there and pick off the berries, just the berries, and they manage to pluck them off. So again, we have more black-eyed Susans. So you can tell they're opening up on the other side before these because it receives more sunlight. So again, just another example of how the microclimate works. And again, more mint, lots of mint, but I leave it. And just for, again, I'm trying to create an environment that looks attractive to the eye. and at the same time doesn't require a lot of maintenance, because right now I don't have a lot of time to give to this. So other than like weeding here and there, I don't do much to this, and I don't have to, which is the really nice thing. But I do try to keep everything sort of symmetrical so it's somewhat pleasing to the eye. Now as we go along here, you're going to see more of the wood chips that I put down, and you're going to come across some more gooseberries. These only gave me a couple this year, not a lot. They still, you can see, are pretty small, and again they came from cuttings from the gooseberry plant that I showed you earlier. I've also left some plants that I have not intentionally planted, such as these violet leaves, which are very prolific in this area as well. And these are great. You can pull these off. You can use them as you would spinach. They're very mild tasting green, but because they've popped up naturally and they are something that you can eat, then I just leave them as they are. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little tour of my front yard permaculture garden, and it gave you some ideas or inspired you to create some areas of your own on your property. So thanks again for watching. We've just hit 1,000 subscribers, which is really exciting. So I hope to be able to create more useful content for you. So as always, please leave some ideas for me in the comments section, or just providing your own opinions and questions have really, I think, provided a lot of value for not only me, but for the other people watching as well. So thanks again, and I will see you all soon.